Is a plant-based diet helping or hurting your runs? I'm Natalie Rizzo, a plant-based sports dietitian, and I have worked with hundreds of runners to help them fuel their fitness with plants. In this video, I'm going to go through the pros of a plant-based diet for runners, the cons, and how to do it correctly so that you feel your best fueling your fitness with plants. When it comes to plant-based eating, we have so much research, and there's even more coming out daily to show the benefits of eating more plants on a daily basis. But for runners, that can come with some downsides. So let's just start with the pros here because there's a lot of them. The first one is there's just better health outcomes when you eat more plants. The research shows that eating a more plant-based diet can help with things like preventing chronic diseases, things like heart disease, cancer, diabetes. Even eating a plant-based diet can help women who are going through menopause lose that stubborn belly fat. So there's so many benefits of including more plants in your life. Plants in general have more nutrients than animal-based foods. You're getting more vitamins, more minerals, more antioxidants, more phytochemicals. All of those things can help you feel better overall. So you're having less inflammation in the body, and less inflammation means less risk of chronic disease. For runners, this is so important because we want to make sure that our hearts are strong, our endurance system is strong, our whole body is strong so that we can perform at our best. Not to mention that plant-based foods are high in antioxidants, which fight inflammation in the body. Fighting inflammation is a good thing because it can help you recover quicker after a run. So after a run, your body experiences what's called acute inflammation, which is just a little bit of inflammation in the joints and in the muscles, and that inflammation helps the body recover. Antioxidants help to clear that inflammation from the body, and antioxidants are in foods like fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds. All of those foods will help you recover faster. Plus, all of these plant-based foods have a lot of fiber, which is good for the gut. Gut health is so important for runners. So many of us have dealt with stomach issues, dealt with reflux, dealt with things because of our fueling routine. And if you want to build a better gut health, you want to eat more fiber and more prebiotic and probiotic foods. Plant-based foods have a lot of those. So when you're getting prebiotic fiber, that's the fiber in foods like bananas, artichokes, onions, garlic. All of those foods contribute to your gut and make your gut healthier. They feed those probiotics or those good living organisms in your gut to make your gut healthier. And the gut is actually connected to your immune system. It's connected to your brain. So feeding that gut and keeping it healthy can make you have more mental clarity while you're running and also keep you healthier overall so that you don't get sick as often. Not to mention probiotic foods. Probiotic are those good living organisms that live in the gut, and those are in foods that are fermented. Things like kimchi. Some kimchi is made with beef, so be careful of that, but you can find plant-based versions. Or sauerkraut, tempeh, miso, all of those foods are fermented and they help build a strong and healthy gut. Plus, plant-based foods are high in carbs, and as runners, you need carbs. Carbs are the primary energy source for your runs. So fruits and vegetables are primarily carbs, and that's a good thing. Those carbs give you not only the nutrients that you need to stay healthy, but they give you the energy you need to keep going during a run. Plus, beans, grains, all of those are really rich in carbs, and a high carb diet is important for runners to make sure that they are getting enough energy to sustain them during a run. Now, there are some cons to a plant-based diet. Let's not ignore them. The number one con is something that we already talked about, and it's fiber. There's a lot of fiber in a plant-based diet, which is great for your digestive health, it's good for your heart health, it's good for your gut health, but it's not so great when you have tummy troubles on a run. So when you're running, your stomach kind of goes up and down and up and down. That can cause some digestive issues. Add in a ton of fiber, and that can really upset the stomach. The second con is there's some nutrients that are a little harder to find on a plant-based diet, but they're not impossible. Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is protein. There are plenty of protein sources out there. You just have to be good about planning out your protein. And again, we will give you some tips for that in the next section. The second one is iron. There's two forms of iron. One is heme iron that comes from animal foods, and one is non-heme iron that comes from plant-based foods. Non-heme iron is not as absorbed as well in the body. So because of that, vegetarians and vegans need about twice the amount of iron that animal eaters need. It's easy to get iron on a plant-based diet if you focus on the right foods. Black beans are a great source of iron, oats, leafy greens. You just have to make sure they're eating enough of them. And some runners, especially females who menstruate, may end up iron deficient. It's a simple thing to figure out. You ask your doctor to take your iron levels at your next exam, and they can determine if you are deficient in iron. Also, vitamin B12 is very hard to get on a plant-based diet. It's made in the intestines of an animal, so that's why it's in meat, and it's not really in plant-based foods. But a lot of plant-based milks, breads, things like that are fortified with vitamin B12. So again, this is something you may want to check for when you go for a doctor's appointment. Are you getting enough B12 in your bloodstream? Because if not, you may feel a little bit fatigued. B12 gives energy, so you want to make sure that you have enough of it. And then lastly, calcium. Calcium comes from dairy, but there are other foods that are high in calcium, and one of which is one of my favorites. It's soy. Tofu is really high in calcium. So you may be getting enough calcium if you eat soy foods, but if you don't, you may not. So that's really important because you want to have strong bones. You need to make sure you're preventing stress fractures, especially as you age. So making sure you get enough calcium is really important. The other thing is plant-based foods have less calories than animal foods. Because of that, you may end up underfueling. You may be taking in less calories than you burn off. Underfueling is a recipe for disaster when it comes to performance. If you're not fueling your runs enough, you may not feel the best. And that's not what we want. We want you to perform at your highest level. Now you know the pros of a plant-based diet and the cons. So if you're thinking about going plant-based or you already are plant-based and you want to fuel a little better, how do you overcome those negatives to make a plant-based diet work for you? Here's 4 strategies. 1, make sure you're aware of protein sources. You definitely need protein to help your muscles recover, and you need protein to keep you full and fueled. So there's so many protein sources. Here are some of my favorites. Specifically, I think soy foods are a great protein source. If you don't do soy, legumes like lentils are amazingly high in protein, and you want to make sure that you're eating enough food. When it comes to plant-based foods, I always give this comparison. 3 ounces of chicken has about 21 grams of protein, but 3 ounces of tofu has only about 9 grams of protein. But the difference is that the tofu has less calories. So when you're eating a plant-based diet, you actually need to eat a higher volume of food to match what is in a diet that contains animal foods. So make sure you're eating enough so that you feel fueled and that you're getting enough protein. 2, be aware of the micronutrients of concern. And those are the things I talked about, like iron, calcium, B12. Figure out foods that have these things and make sure you're incorporating them in your diet. A quick tip for people who feel like they're iron deficient, obviously ask your doctor to check your levels. But if you pair iron-rich foods with foods that have vitamin C actually enhances the absorption of iron. So think of something like black beans with tomatoes, which have a lot of vitamin C. Putting those things together makes you absorb the iron better. So think about that when you're putting your plates together. 3, this kind of goes off of the last 2 tips, but I talk a lot about combining foods when it comes to a plant-based diet. You can't rely on one food because it doesn't always give you everything you need. For instance, like I said before, 3 ounces of tofu may only give you 9 grams of protein. Half a cup of beans, probably about 8 grams of protein. But when you add those 2 things together, you're getting close to 20 grams of protein. Then maybe you throw in some broccoli and you're getting more protein, and you also have the calcium in the broccoli, the calcium in the tofu, the iron in the black beans. So when you're eating a plant-based diet, you want to think about variety and making sure that you're adding foods together to get all of the nutrients you need. And 4, think about fiber as it pertains to the timing of your runs. What that means is you don't want to eat something super high in fiber right before a run. For instance, you're about to go out for a run and you decide to have a pear. A pear has 6 grams of fiber. Although it is rich in carbs, it may not be the best thing to fuel you for your run. The same goes with what you have the night before, say, a long run. Maybe you had something that had a lot of black beans, a lot of lentils, cauliflower that has a lot of fiber in it, and then you wake up the next morning and you feel like you're running to the bathroom, that can really affect your stomach as you're running. So you want to think about timing the fiber after a run so that it won't interfere with how your gut feels while you are running. It's still okay to have some fiber. For instance, I am fine with whole wheat bread before a run. That doesn't really upset my stomach, but other runners I've worked with have said that it does for them. So you want to do a little bit of trial and error when it comes to the fiber and how it feels for you. Making sure that, especially if you're training for something that's longer, like a marathon, that you're not eating a salad for lunch and then running after work. That can really, really upset your stomach. So you have to make sure that you're timing that fiber properly for your running routine and trying different methods to make sure that you're getting enough, but you're not getting it at the wrong times. Okay, so we went through the pros of plant-based diet for runners, the cons of a plant-based diet for runners, and how to make it work for you. If you want to know more, make sure you check out my website at greenleats.com and follow me on social media at greenleats, and check out these other videos with more tips for plant-based runners.